Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining at a little bit of a different time today than normal, but it might be whatever time for you, because if you're watching us at a better time for you, we're really glad that you were able to make the time. And my name is Ashley Koff. I am CEO of the Better Nutrition Program, where we provide practitioner-developed tools for practitioners and their patients to help really make that communication come together about what you're currently doing from a nutrition standpoint, and then work on what could be better to help you reach your health goals. And in doing that, I've gotten introduced to such a world, a vast world of experts. And the way that I like to start this is actually by defining what I mean by better nutrition expert, because one of the things I think we have an issue with in today's world is a lot of people are using words in ways, and we're not all using words the same way. So a better nutrition expert to me is someone who is science-based, evidence-based, so they're reviewing the information. That may mean that they have training in that part, or they may have dived into the research themselves and gone through that, but also that they have practice-based experience. And the reason for that is that a true expert is going to be able to help assess you and then help develop a plan for you. And so what I bring on here are better nutrition experts that help me sort through some of the key issues and help me figure out, how can we help individuals, like today we'll be talking about new moms, assess what their body needs and then figure out ways to get them in. So I am joined by Melissa Mitri. I am so glad to have her today, a dietitian. As you see on your screen, she's at melissamitri.com. She's also giving away on her site a free pantry items list for moms. So get that. So it's done, right? It's like, here, get these ingredients. And today what we're going to do is we are going to talk about for new moms, and we're also going to define what that new mom space looks like so that we're using the same terms. For new moms, how can better nutrition be doable? I think that that's probably the best way to sum it up. Of course, that means understanding what is that better nutrition, but then what are the tricks of the trades and any tools that she has to bring it in. So without further ado, I want to welcome Melissa, and I'm going to kick off, Melissa, with you telling us a little bit about, you mentioned in your pre-interview that you don't think that you could be doing anything other than what you're doing today. Where did your passion for nutrition really come about?
Yeah, so Ashley, thank you for having me. And hello, everyone. My name's Melissa. I am a registered dietitian, like Ashley said. And as far as why I became a dietitian, I actually used to be a nursing major, and I knew I always wanted to do something in healthcare. And really what sparked my passion to switch to nutrition is I realized I wanted to work with people, but I didn't want to do something as direct patient care. But I remembered how much I loved learning about nutrition in high school, and was fascinated about how good nutrition can make such a difference in how you feel and your mood and just improving your health in general. And as I started learning about that in my nursing courses, actually, I realized that that's where my passion really lied. And I'm definitely a total science nerd as well. I love to read. I love reading research articles. And that kind of combined with the fact that I love working with people, being a dietitian seemed like the perfect career for me. I always loved science, but I never really pictured myself working in a lab or working kind of behind the scenes. I wanted to be more out there directly helping people. So that's exactly why I do what I do, and I love it. I've been doing it for a little over 11 years now. So
awesome. And we're going to get into the topic at hand for today. We are going to talk about new moms. But I want to you don't work with just new moms. You work with moms in general. And in fact, you wrote in there busy moms. And I just sort of dropped the busy because I think like busy is built in. It's like a letter in the word moms. It's probably a letter in the word women. I think we're just all busy today. Right. But you have some observations and some things that you employ in your work with moms around just sort of diet and restrictive behavior and things that don't work and what does work. And so help us understand just a little bit about the approach that you take to working with women with moms in general, and then we'll dive into the new mom space.
Yeah, sure. So as far as, like you said, I work with moms of, not just new moms, but with older kids as well. And I work with all women, but I do specialize more with moms because I've found in my experience that when you become a mom, it becomes so much more difficult to focus on yourself, and it really brings in a big change in your life. And what I try to do with with all of my moms I work with is number one, kind of start at their habits. So starting and not just focusing on nutrition, but focusing on why we're eating the way that we're eating. So there's always reasons why. There's always influences. There's stress. There's emotions. Especially as a new mom, you have a lot of emotions going on. So really, my approach that I like to take is definitely number one, a practical approach, because I'm realistic, of course. I'm a mom myself. I have 2 young boys, so I know that I know it's not realistic to recommend my clients to make fancy meals every night. I take a very practical approach, looking at the individual and how much time they have. Do they even like to cook? What's really going to work for them and their family, and kind of starting there from square one. Because it's not really for me to say, oh, here, I'm just going to give you a meal plan and this is what you have to eat. That's not practical. I really focus on what does that person like to eat? What do they have time to make? So I take a very real practical approach. I'm very non-judgmental. So I always ask my clients to tell me everything that they're eating and drinking. I want to know it all, because that's how I'm going to be able to help them the best. I always kind of like compare it to if you were to see a therapist, for instance, that, if you're not honest with what you're doing and what's bothering you, then the therapist is not going to be able to help you. And it's kind of the same concept when it comes to seeing a dietitian. And that I always, I think a lot of times people might, be intimidated and are afraid to tell me the truth of what they're really doing, and I'm not judgmental at all. So so that's a little bit of my approach. I take a very realistic approach. I focus first on the emotions and the reasons for eating, and then on the nutrition second, because I firmly believe that we can't focus. It's not for me to just say like you need to eat this without first addressing the real concern and the real life, what's really going on in that woman's life.
Yeah. I think, I often say to my clients in the past years, like, I promise you're going to be way harder on yourself, or you are harder on yourself than I'm going to be on you. So I really appreciate that. So for me, I don't think a lot has changed since 1995 on this front, but around 1995, for those of you that know my story, you know that I was passionately helping America eat more sugared cereals. And so working in advertising, and my client being Kellogg's at the time, I was actually put on a global project to assess the business opportunity for new moms. And the reason that I share this is we actually did some research. I always think like, gosh, if I could just have this money, right? So the big nut of the research that came out was from the time that a woman decides to be a mom, if there's a decision process or finds out that she is going to be a mom, her energy shifts 100% to the nourishment for the focus of the child. And so, we're like, duh, like literally give me the several $1 million and I, could have gone on to do something, right? But I think it's so interesting because when we talk about new mom nutrition, where I want to start off with is like, when is the time, you talk about habits, when's the time to start working on habits for the nutrition that is going to maybe serve you and your body best as a new mom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a really good question, because I think a lot of us think of the traditional postpartum stage as being, 6 weeks. And, after that 6-week appointment, we're kind of like on our own, you have that one appointment and that's it. But that postpartum stage lasts a long time. It can last up to 2 years, that you still need extra nutrients, certain foods to heal. So it's really important to, it's kind of like that battle between making sure you're getting enough food, but then also that urge to want to lose the baby weight right away. So I think there's a lot of pressure, especially from social media, on losing weight really quickly and kind of bouncing back after having a baby. So what I always recommend is the first 6 months to focus on just repleting your energy stores and focus on yourself and the baby. So eating well, eating healthy, of course, but being practical as well. So, if you want to eat a cookie and that's really what you're craving once in a while, then go for it. But focusing more on what to eat, especially if you're breastfeeding. Your body needs extra calories to heal. But getting those extra calories from nourishing foods like good protein, high fiber foods, fruits and vegetables, soups, stews, those are all comforting foods that are going to fill you up, which is really, really important. Like I said, especially if you're nursing, you need those extra nourishment. And even if you're not nursing, you need a lot of energy just to take care of a newborn. So you want to eat foods that are going to fill you up and hold you over, so you have the energy that you need to feel good and to best take care of your baby. So first 6 months, focusing on eating nourishing foods, eating every 2 to 3 hours if possible, and it could be very simple. And we can go into a couple examples I have a little bit later, as far as I have 3 really good meal prep tips to just keep things simple. And practical and still eat healthy. But after those 6 months, if the mom wants to start focusing on losing a little bit of weight or kind of just getting back into their routine again, then, I always recommend taking it slow, not being so hard on yourself, starting with exercise that they enjoy. So whether that's walking with the baby, doing a quick workout video while the baby's napping, just little things are going to add up to just make you start to feel better and get into that routine again. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's starting slow, taking little steps with both the exercise and with your diet again.
And one of the things, and I do want to mention, because somebody asked me earlier, and I said I think that these tips will apply definitely for them, but also, with every individual, and especially with every mom, as just like with every child, we're talking about, if this information is more generalized, it's not personal information, so we always want to be clear about that here on Facebook and YouTube. But she was saying she actually didn't give birth; she adopted, and she found that she really struggles to find information that feels like it was catered to her. Nutrition is about giving the body what it needs to run better. So even though we'll mention things like breastfeeding if you've adopted, or, I think in whatever stage you are, as you were mentioning before, if you're an older woman who is having a child later in life, that that will have different nutrient implications as well. And one area that we always know that no matter what, hormonal shifts and certainly pregnancy or just the stress of having a newborn in the household, because this is out there for those men also, is that this throws off your digestion. And so one of the places that I wanted to start with for tips for you is, do you have any tips for what to eat when your body just doesn't feel awesome, right? Like, so whether it's bloated or you're still constipated, maybe you're still taking a prenatal, should you have that iron, these kinds of things. So I'd love to ask you just about, like, diving right in, what do we do when our digestion doesn't feel good, but we know we need to get nutrition in for you and the baby?
Right. Yeah. So definitely. So if you had, after having baby, if you didn't adopt and you went through childbirth, and especially that your digestive system needs time to heal. So it is more important, if you are having high fiber foods, fruits and vegetables, to have them more well cooked than to have raw vegetables, because they're going to be tougher to digest. And again, it's just giving your body time to heal. So that's why I mentioned having something like stews and soups, just prepping them on the weekends and having them kind of ready to go. It's easy, and that's an easier way to eat those foods and properly digest them. Also breaking them down into like a smoothie, for instance, is another example. But then as far as, vitamins and prenatals, definitely taking a prenatal, continuing to take a prenatal after, and then even a probiotic. So, so whether you're getting your probiotics from your food and also from a supplement, potentially, depending on how much you're getting with your diet. So, so you can get probiotics from yogurt. Greek yogurt has more protein, so I usually recommend that. Plain Greek yogurt is the best. It has less sugar. And also you can get probiotics from any type of fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut. Kefir is like a fermented yogurt drink that you can, add into a smoothie or just have by itself. Another great way to get probiotics in. And also just taking a probiotic supplement that has a good balance of the different strains of bacteria, because that's helping to kind of repair your gut. And again, not just for someone that just gave birth, but for someone that adopted, or for any woman really, because really there's a lot of things that are affecting our flora in our body, and antibiotic use, a lot of things that are affecting it, and we don't always realize it. Sometimes I know I've seen a lot of clients that say, like, I just feel bloated all the time, or I just don't feel great after I eat. And a lot of that could be because of the unhealthy bacteria in their body. So it's definitely always a good idea to keep that in check and take a good probiotic supplement as well as getting it in your diet.
Great. So I had another question from a new mom who is, she's like, I'm so overwhelmed. I was like, okay, totally right spot to be. And she said she's really overwhelmed by trying to get in the nutrients that she needs, but she's confused about what to do. She is breastfeeding, confused about what to do because of all of the allergy comments. And so she was saying that somebody was telling her not to have peas. And then I was like, I think they're thinking about pea protein as that relates to peanuts and, et cetera, et cetera. So let's unpack for a new mom, when you're breastfeeding, what are some of the key nutrients? And then let's go into those meal prep or those tip prep tools that you were talking about. I think that'll be really helpful for her.
Yeah, sure. So as far as the key nutrients when breastfeeding, and it's whether you're breastfeeding or not as far as repair, but really it was very important to get enough iron in the diet. So iron from, particularly from red meats is really the best iron source. For vegetarians, you could still get iron from spinach, a lot of leafy green vegetables. But really the type of iron that's in meat is a lot more easily absorbed. It's the type of iron that's you're not going to need as much of it in order to meet your needs. So definitely iron is really, really important. Another one that's really key for breastfeeding is DHA. So DHA is the type of omega-3 that is in fish oil supplements and in fatty fish like salmon and tuna. So if you're a fish eater, I always promote getting it directly from the food whenever possible. But if that's not possible, then taking a DHA supplement is also a really great option. At least 300 milligrams of DHA a day is the recommendation. And then also folate is really important. So folate or folic acid, again, a lot of green vegetables, spinach, kale. So you can cook them. A really easy way I love kale. I feel like kale is usually a love or hate relationship for most people, but kale, just roasting it or sauteing it is really quick and easy way to make it. But if you don't like it that way, you could just blend it into a smoothie, and that's another easy way to have it. Also really important to stay hydrated. So drinking plenty of water, not too much caffeine, which I know, is a challenge. I think a lot of new moms, I'm sure, just want to drink coffee all day long to give energy, but it reaches a certain point that really all of that caffeine is really not giving you any more energy, and it's probably just dehydrating you more. So if you have the urge to constantly drink something, definitely have at least one glass of water for every feeding, every time that you're nursing, to make sure that you're staying really well hydrated. That's going to make sure that it's going to help with building up your milk supply. You also want to have enough fat in your diet. So you need more healthy fats, because that's going to increase the amount of healthy fats in your breast milk. So healthy fats from nuts and as far as, and I'll talk about the allergy thing, but as far as having nuts in your diet, if your baby doesn't have any risk of, there's really no research to prove that it's a problem to have those types of foods in your diet when breastfeeding. So having peanuts, peanut butter, it's also really filling. Peanut butter, avocados. Those are really great healthy fats. A little olive oil, if you're sauteing something, is a great fat as well. And that's just going to build up that healthy, nutritious milk supply.
I love it. I always teach people, for me with with breastfeeding, it's been about getting in with the water, or during a feeding, potassium also. I think we can add to the list, just because I feel like otherwise you're peeing out all the water, on that front, and not from a supplement. We don't want that from a supplement.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No, you're right. And I like to try to simplify it too. What I usually, there are so many nutrients that are really important, more than what I mentioned, but I like to speak of it more in a pattern of eating. So really it's more of the green vegetables, more, a little more of the, not too much of the red meat, but even having once a day, a red meat, and then also the skin of chicken. So a lot of times we're told to have just lean chicken, no skin, because it has a lot of fat. But then after having a baby, you actually need more of that fat from the skin of the chicken and of the meat, because it has certain proteins that help with repair and healing. So that's really important that I like to mention as well.
So how do we do it? Like that's, I think, the $70 million question, which is like we get like that there are all of these things, and quite honestly, I've had so many moms just say to me like if it was a pill, they would pay whatever for it. So how do you make it not a pill? How do you make it delicious, doable, more often? What are some of those tips?
Yeah, so I have three big tips, and then I'm also going to share that if you have days that you just can't eat well, you can't eat frequently enough, then that's where the supplements come into play, and that's always good as a good insurance. So firstly, I always like to say to just keep things as simple as possible when it comes to eating. So especially those first few months, even up to 6 months after having a baby, don't stress about making anything complicated or even anything very new to you. So if you have a lot of like tried and true recipes that are really simple, especially think about recipes that are easy to make when you're distracted, because you're going to be distracted. The baby's going to be crying, or you might start to cook while the baby's asleep, but then if they wake up, then what happens? So picking a few like tried and true recipes like stir fries, stews, just like one pot meals, sheet pan dinners are great. So like just putting like, some chicken breast and some vegetables and little drizzle olive oil and roasting it all together in the oven. Just thinking like less cleanup too. Mm-hmm. So keeping things really, really simple, and is really key. Not trying to get a lot of like fancy ingredients, picking like a couple days of the week too, to do your prep, not having to meal prep every single day. That's not realistic. And also finding what works best for you. So I know like some people do like to prep all at once and, prep for like the next 4 to 5 days and maybe even eat the same thing every day. Some people that's not going to work because you're going to get bored. So if that's you, then, maybe just, pre-chopping your vegetables and your fruits is all you're going to be able to do that day. But even then you're a step ahead, because when things get more busy, when you have less time, then you could just quickly, add those veggies to a stir fry, and that's saving you a ton of time than having to worry about doing it all at the last minute. Because when things aren't ready to go, we're going to be less likely to want to have them, right? Because it's just as easy to grab for a bag of potato chips than to grab for the healthier, more nutritious foods. So, the key is just making it as easy as possible for you to want to grab those foods. So number one, keep it really simple ingredients. They said stir fries or even frittatas, omelets, having that for dinner, that's totally fine. And eggs, forgot to mention, eggs are a really great food to have postpartum as well. So that's really great. If you like eggs, a couple times a day even, they have a lot of the good fats. They have a lot of really good nutrients that are good for baby's brain health as well. So those are just a few examples. So number one, just keep it simple. Number two, meal prep when you have more time. So when you have the help. The key is being not being afraid to ask for the help too. So whether that's from your spouse, from a friend, neighbor, family member, whenever you have someone that's able to help you, that can be your key time to just spend like a half hour pre-chopping, or even you could even buy things pre-chopped to save yourself time. I mean, they're a little bit more expensive, but during that short window of time, I found that it was worth it, because that just saves a ton of time and it's going to get you to eat more vegetables. So, but not being afraid to ask for help is really, really important. I think that's a big thing that I see with a lot of new moms is, we feel overwhelmed, but then also we're not asking for the help. We're not saying that we're overwhelmed until you get to the point where you just can't do it anymore. So not being afraid to ask for it when you need it. And then that way, if you have someone coming and visiting for some reason, stepping away for a half hour, when someone asks, well, what do you need help with? It might be that you need just a little time to yourself, not feeling like you have to entertain that person when they're coming over and prep food for them. Instead, they can be helping you, knowing this is a short period of time, and it's a time that you really truly need that help to recover and take care of yourself.
I love that. One of the other areas that I got a set of questions about was about processed foods. So this notion of totally idealize the idea of, having food available. Okay, I can buy. One woman was really funny. She said, I stocked my whole freezer with stuff, but I just found like I was needed and wanted, and so, the grab and go, the bars. She has more than one child, so she had a newborn and then had a couple of kids at home. And so I think part of it is like, how do we give ourselves permission to navigate the processed food, because it's so available and it could actually, as you said, like be something that could be helpful. So do you have any guardrails around, what to grab if you're from a processed food standpoint?
Yeah. So, and of course, like you said, realistically, I mean, sometimes you might have to grab something that's just ready to go when you don't have the time. So there are a couple of products that I like if you are going to grab something, really, ready to go. So I really like the Kind products. So like Kind bars. I really like them because they don't have a lot of ingredients. They don't have a lot of sugar. Mm-hmm. So they make bars, they make breakfast bars. They also make kids bars, which my kids really love those. So a lot of times they have that for breakfast with some fruit. So that's a brand I really like. And then as far as other things, I'm trying to think, as far as, everything, other things that are quick and easy are like yogurt, just grabbing like I said, it doesn't always have to be like a full meal either. Like if you're hungry and you don't have a really long chunk of time, then you should eat something. You shouldn't wait till it's, time to have a full meal. So you can just like a plain Greek yogurt. I really like Chobani or the Oikos brand is really good. They both have a good amount of protein and they taste good. So those are two brands that I like. And then other things that are just like quick and ready to go. I mean, you can have, I'm trying to think. Oh, another brand I really like is Orgain. So Orgain shakes, again, not any artificial sweeteners in them, which that's really difficult to find in a lower calorie shake, but they have a lot of protein. So I think it's about 20 grams of protein for the shake, which is really good, because you want to have close to that amount to actually make you feel full. So Orgain shakes are great. Smoothies are great. So anything that's kind of like you can eat with one hand a lot of times is a really easy thing to do. I also have a really good recipe it's no cook. It's really simple to make, that I can share if you'd like, with you afterwards. But it's for like the No Bake Energy Bites.
Perfect.
And yeah, so that's a really great thing to have postpartum too, because really nutritious, really easy, and you can make a bunch all at once.
Yeah, I love that. Shout out though to my friend and a mom and a dietitian. I don't know if you know Mitzi Doolin, but she has Simply Fuel, so I love those balls too. Those are great ones. I always tell people, you were talking about your pantry list. I'm like, oh, why not register for food or food delivery? Like those kinds of things. If people want to get you gifts, I think those are great options. I want to shift gears just in the remaining time, because something again, when I got your pre-information and we were talking about just moms in general, but I think this is really important for new moms, and I just really appreciated the way that you were talking about it, is that there can be a sense of guilt when we focus on ourselves. And so really identifying that time, or said differently, putting as high a value on self-care, mom care, as you do on kid care, or baby care. And so how do you navigate that, especially in that early, let's call it the first, 6-8 months, where you really have a child that is, needs your full attention? What are some of your tips for identifying those mom care moments?
Yeah. So, really great question. So that's something we all struggle with. And even as our kids get older, there's always some sort of mom guilt, sort of there. But how you can kind of manage that is, starting small, just doing a little bit of something for yourself every day is really important. It does not have to be anything crazy. But I like to start with 10 minutes a day of just doing something for yourself, whether that's just, listening to an audiobook or taking a break and calling a friend. It doesn't have to be getting a massage or getting your nails done. That may not be realistic in the beginning, but doing a little something just for you, and being separate from the baby is really, really important, because what happens is if you don't do that regularly, then you get to the point where you start to feel resentful and frustrated and stressed. And there's always some, maybe some level of stress, but you don't want to get to the point where you're feeling that way, because that's when it can become that, well, you get, overwhelmed, and it's just not a good situation to be in. So, just starting with a little bit of something every day, so that way, you're probably not going to feel guilty for doing that. And then when you start to do that, you're going to realize how much better you feel. So it's going to become more of a habit that it's not, such a big deal when you're doing it. When you're waiting, say, like a whole month, and then, I'm going to go and have a big, blowout, a spa day, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You're just starting small, and really know that everyone feels that way. Everyone feels that guilt, but it's just within us. It's not. It may be coming from society, but subconsciously it's also within us, and it's like you said, we're always more harder on ourselves than others are. So don't ask for permission, and just take that time for yourself, because when we ask for permission, then we're kind of like making it seem like it's something bad that we're doing.
I absolutely love that. Maybe the one thing you do for yourself today is to actually get the free pantry items list off of Melissa's website. I think that's a great start. She actually had shared with me in her pre-notes that taking a run actually helps her then be more present with her kids. Like, I think we've experienced that with our partners and et cetera. And so I just think it's important. I love that notion of like setting it an intention to do something for yourself regularly. So my final question, because I feel like this has come up, we all know that the ridiculousness of the body after baby, commentaries, although some people are getting out there and being more about, hey, this is realistic, or, this is how it is. What's your role? What have you identified in working with your patients? The role of social media and time on social media. I say it probably with a total judgment in my head, but maybe not, because maybe it can be really empowering or supportive. So I guess I would just be curious if you've had recommendations, or sort of how you help people navigate social media that has the ability, we know when we're not sleep deprived and had our bodies torqued and all these other things, normally it can make us feel, it can have an impact on our emotions. So I'm just curious if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So so social media, it can be great, but it also can make you feel bad. So definitely, as far as navigating social media, the first thing I say is, if there's anyone on social media that you're following that you feel badly about yourself after, then give yourself permission to unfollow them. Don't follow anyone that is, even if they're not intentional, like maybe they just have a different audience than what you're looking for. So if you just either don't agree with what they're saying, or, it's making you feel bad about yourself, then just unfollow them and follow those that are making you feel good, that are giving you motivation, or they're kind of the things that you want to see. There's always going to be difference of opinions and people out there. I mean, I know like on Instagram, there's so many people that are promoting the body after baby, like the before and after pictures. And I know that could be triggering for a lot of new moms. So if that's something that's bothering you, then just don't follow them. There's also a lot of people out there on social media that are really supportive and that are offering really great practical advice, and, are going through that themselves. And know that everyone's situation is different, and you also don't really know what's truly going on in that person's life. Social media is only a really small tidbit of what's really happening. So it's always important to keep that into perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today, and for everyone who joined us, especially if you're watching us on YouTube and you liked what you saw, please give us a thumbs up. And if you're watching us Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever, and you know of a new mom, or you have clients that you're working with, or you think a practitioner would benefit from this information, the goal of the Better Nutrition Expert Interview Series is to do hopefully what we did today for you, which is to share some expert tips and introduce you to an expert that you can connect with that has more tools and resources to help you navigate this particular space. So thank you again for joining us, and thanks everyone. So we hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.